What are those things that you would advise a young person coming into an organization and they say to you, what should I aspire to be as a leader? What advice would you give that person?
The thing of being curious, listen, try to understand, what the organization, how the organization is, what the business is like, what the different functions do. Try to relate to people and understand what, from what you said, empathy point of view, try to understand that. And things comes, I think confidence also comes with experience over time. Yeah? But you need to dare to expose yourself to many different situations, I think, constantly as well. Yeah? Because of course, if you stay in your comfort zone all the time, of course you don't develop, we know that. You need to be able to step out there and try different things. And that is maybe being willing to move a bit between functions, maybe between geographies, even maybe between industries or whatever that might be, but just to expose yourself to different people.
Yeah. Many people would challenge and say, well, but when I talk to my manager, they tell me the next job is not going to be vacant. But I think there's an opportunity for me elsewhere. How do I knock on that door and see if I can go into that place?
The thing there about the career is, of course, very important that you push a bit yourself also. You're going to speak to your manager, you're going to speak to your HR person, you're going to say, I'm looking for, I want to do something else. So you push that. You cannot always just sit and wait and just always put it on the company to come to you. You have to also be able to articulate what you want to do going forward.
So what would you say would be the most prevalent traits that leaders should have for them to be able to carry forward the tasks they have?
One thing is around, of course, the learning side and experience on that side. Of course, it's very healthy for people to have different views from and understand, different functions, different roles, which actually means that you need to be a bit curious about what goes on in the other functions. As I said earlier, I don't need to be an expert in HR, but I need to understand fundamentals and things around HR, because otherwise it's very difficult for you and me to interact in a good way. So on the learning side, the curiosity, listening, trying to understand what goes on in different parts of the organization, and try to really get a good grasp of the full business. I think that's important. To be open, to be able to take critique. We said listen once again is very, very important. It is important to be able to take decisions, and I think what very often distinguish successful from not so successful people is confidence. You need to build your confidence over time so that you don't, and you also can take mistakes. And not, as we said earlier, not everything that we do during a crisis is necessarily the right things. We try to do as good as we can and try to get as much information as we can. So I think that's also important. And we said earlier also this 80-20 thing, that you can't always say that I have to know everything before I dare to take a decision. We have to be able to take a decision where we have we know maybe 80% and 20% we don't know.
Sometimes it's important for people to know that you understand where they're coming from. So that's where empathy comes in. When you're responding to something, it's not because that's what the policy says or that's what the strategy demands, but it's more first listen to the other person, get to understand where they're coming from, because then you can address their need a lot better than if you just stick to the policy line.
Actually, it's all about how you make people feel. And I think that is a very good thought to hold for a leader, because if you don't make people feel appreciated, encouraged, motivated, committed, what can you expect from this? But I mean, if you can drive that type of environment in a company where you try to appreciate people, you encourage people, you make people feel good, and of course in the final end you want people to be happy in an organization. If you make that happen, then you can, in many cases you can create an organization that can sell anything, not necessarily just steel and a billion or whatever they will put that group into, they will be able to do well. But of course if you have people that are intimidated, they are afraid, they're not confident, and like that, if that is the type of organization up with, you will fail everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we need to do is some deep introspection into how do we make other people feel. So a huge level of self-awareness, so that we know where we need to course correct and always leave people feeling valued, despite the fact that maybe you have just disagreed or denied whatever request they came back with.
But it's very easy that you actually believe that the organization and the people in the organization want the same as you want yourself. Might not be true. So you actually, not might, it is not true.
Mhm.
So you actually have to be sure also that you adapt that to the different persons
Mhm.
because they have different, different things they want to achieve.
Yeah.